Hey guys, this is Damian Leone, writer director of Terrifier 1 and 2, and you're listening to the Horror Squad podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Horror Squad podcast. This is episode number 269, where tonight we are going to be reviewing The Last of Us, the very hot television show currently streaming over on HBO Max. We are Toddless tonight, unfortunately, so you'll be listening to me, Joe, hosting, but we're here with everyone's favorite person, Steve, still on his vacation. Steve, how is the beautiful weather down where you are?
It's great, man. God, I mean, it's not like super hot or anything, it's like ranging around the 60s, I guess. But compared to where I'm from, that's fucking amazing. It's sunny all the time, which is great. And just hanging by the beach, playing a lot of arcades, going shopping. I'm going to a gangster themed murder mystery night tonight. So yeah, pretty excited. Unfortunately, I do have to come back. I'm leaving the day this episode is posted. And it's another 17-hour drive back to winter, which really sucks because they got a ton of snow apparently yesterday, and there's more coming this weekend. It just never fucking ends. It's crazy. We're actually apparently in record numbers at this point where I'm from, which really sucks because I have a snowplow service, and once you go over a certain amount of snow, they charge you per visit. Holy fuck!
Brutal.
Killing me. Yeah, and I just have to mention, I don't think I mentioned it last week. But because I'm not home, I'm doing this from South Carolina. My sound might not be like as good as usual, so I apologize for that. I will be back home next episode and back to my kind of regular setup. But right now I'm on just like headphones in what looks like basically a closet, so very uncomfortable space. So, but I didn't want to miss any episodes and stuff like that. So that's why I sound a little shitty.
That's fine. We're going old school for our longtime listeners. You'll remember that I recorded in a closet for a long period of time because when Sam was on the podcast, we didn't want to record together. So I was relegated to the closet until we worked out audio issues and stuff like that. I mean, those episodes were super echoey. So we sound a lot better now, and people can deal with it for a couple of episodes.
Right.
But I was going to say, even though you're coming home from vacation, very, very soon, you'll be down in Texas Frightmare. So
that's right. Only 2.5 months left till Texas Frightmare. So
yeah, it's coming up. It's coming up really quick. I'm super excited for it. I actually attended a horror convention this past weekend, Monster Mania. We are going to be doing a full breakdown on that during the watch segment. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, anything else, Steve, before we get into horror news?
No, let's get into it.
All right, let's do it. Let's start it off right away. I know Steve is going to be very excited to talk about this because just last week, the trailer for the Haunted Mansion movie released. It is going to be starring a great array of people, but most notably, I noticed in the trailer was Danny DeVito and Owen Wilson. I know Jamie Lee Curtis as well, which shout out while we were in the news segment, shout out to Jamie Lee Curtis for winning the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. And she actually did acknowledge the horror fans as well in her acceptance speech, which was really, really awesome of her. So massive congratulations to Jamie Lee. But so Steve, you being the biggest Haunted Mansion fan I possibly know, what were your thoughts on this trailer for the Haunted Mansion?
I have mixed feelings about the Haunted Mansion trailer. Now, of course, I hope it's going to be amazing. I'm still going to go see it, of course, because I love the Haunted Mansion. I mean, I have my whole living room decorated as the Haunted Mansion. It's just, I wasn't feeling that trailer. And I think it's because of a few reasons. Number one, it looks to be a big like CGI fest. And it kind of reminds me of, was it 1999's The Haunting, which also starred Owen Wilson? It's giving me that feeling, and I did not like that movie at all. Well, no, I wouldn't say at all, but I didn't like that movie. I thought it was a little too over the top and too crazy, and it gave me more The Haunting vibes than the Haunted Mansion, the rides. Now, there are a lot of references to the Haunted Mansion in the trailer, which is really cool. I don't know. I think it's a wait and see type scenario. I'm not more excited about it because of the trailer. I'm not necessarily less excited either because I did not expect it to be amazing for some reason. I don't know. I just had a bad feeling about who wrote it specifically. But still, I can't wait to see it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it looked fun. Like my expectations were not high anyway to begin with, just because I feel like Disney obviously is going to play it pretty safe with a movie like this. It's a very, big protected property, one that they obviously aren't going to delve too much into the actual horror origins of it. They're going to try to make it as family friendly as possible. So, I mean, for what it looked like, I mean, I thought it looked like it could be a fun time, sort of like, now I didn't like this as much. I know you liked it a lot more, but sort of like the Muppets Haunted Mansion movie. So it kind of looked like, something along that vein. So, we'll see. They didn't even show Jamie Lee in the trailer, as Madame Leona. So I'll be interested to see how her character is if that's her. That's her character, right? Am I right?
Leota.
Leota. Okay, yeah. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah,
but yeah. I mean, it looks fine to me. I'm not like super excited to see it, but I'll definitely see it. Will it be something I rush out to go see in theaters? Probably not.
Yeah, one thing I was surprised about in the trailer anyway, the ghosts look kind of scary. I mean, obviously, it doesn't scare me, but they were more like horror than I would have expected. I thought the ghosts would look maybe a little goofier or a little more PG, but they were kind of scary, and I like that direction because I mean it's still a ghost mansion, if you think about it.
Right.
So we'll see how that actually pans out.
Yeah. Was it just me too? And I wasn't really getting like the Haunted Mansion vibes too, like in the actual mansion, like not like the ride anyway. Like I think it would have been cool if they kind of made it look more sort of like the ride.
That was one of the issues and that goes back. It feels more like just a Haunted Mansion as opposed to the Haunted Mansion. Now I rewatched the trailer. I'm not kidding. I probably watched the trailer 10 times at this point, just trying to like pinpoint things. And there are a lot of like subtle nods to the Haunted Mansion itself. But yeah, I get that kind of just generic Haunted Mansion feel inside as well, but who knows? There's a lot of elements they didn't show a lot of. They didn't show the Hatbox Ghost too much. They didn't show Madame Leota. So there may be elements of the ride that they're kind of trying to keep under wraps and stuff. I mean, fucking Hatbox Ghost is played by goddamn Jared Leto, so that's a whole other issue of itself. But we'll see. I'll definitely go see it.
I actually had no idea Jared Leto's going to be in that movie. Interesting. All right. Bringing the whole cult with him, maybe. I don't know. We'll
maybe.
All right. Let's get into the next bit of news here is a little update on the I Know What You Did Last Summer reboot, whatever you want to call it. It was reported on last time that Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. were going to be reprising their roles. Well, pump the brakes, ladies and gentlemen, because Freddie Prinze Jr. came out in an interview recently on 2Fab is the one that interviewed Freddie Prinze about this. But Freddie Prinze said he's been offered nothing, ladies and gentlemen. The actor he went on to clarify. He said they just said that to get people excited. I haven't spoken to anyone at their company. My agents haven't received an offer from them whatsoever. I had a conversation with the director a few days after they announced that, just to be like, yo, what the hell? What are they saying? Why are they saying I'm going to be in a movie that I'm probably not going to be in? And she said, let me just pitch you the idea. So she's spoken to me about the idea, but I haven't said yes. I haven't received an offer. So why would this kind of blows my mind? And Freddie Prinze, I'm sorry, before we get into it, he also went on to say, I have no reason to lie to anyone. I have no skin in the game. I'm only going to do things that I like and work with people that I like. And there's not going to be any wiggle room this time around. I messed up the first time around. This time, I just want to do stuff I'm passionate about. So yeah, I haven't even read a script yet. So this kind of like blows my mind. Like, why would the studio go out and be like, hey, we're making this movie with Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. coming back, and telling Freddie Prinze, hey, like, hype this movie up, and then nothing, like, this might not even happen, it sounds like now, or at least not with Freddie Prinze Jr. on board.
Yeah, is that their strategy though, to gauge interest? Like the studio is like, before we put money into this, let's see what people would react to this news before they actually go out and do it. But it's weird. You'd think they at least talk to them first and pay him a little bit of money and be like, okay, we're gonna say this, whether or not it comes to fruition, we don't know, but it's crazy. Yeah, it's a stupid strategy. I don't like that at all. Maybe we won't see this franchise be recalled or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's like super bizarre. And I mean, maybe they have gotten Jennifer Love Hewitt on board and they're like, well, if Jennifer Love Hewitt's on board, Freddie Prinze will probably come on board or something, and we'll
Right.
talk to him down the road. I don't know. We'll see. And we'll definitely keep you updated with everything to do with that. Next bit of news here, The Exorcist. I know some of us are excited for it. Some of us are scared for it. We'll see. But the first movie has officially wrapped on filming. So now we head into post-production. The movie is slated to be released October 13th of this year theatrically. Leslie Odom Jr. will be starring, as well as Ellen Bernstein, who will be reprising her role as Chris McNeil, of course, the mother of Reagan. So we'll see how it goes, but filming has wrapped on that. So
it's coming.
I'm
whether we
nervous.
want to or not, right? Like it's
Right.
just goddamn David Gordon Green is just, it's not a good track record at this point. So I mean, I guess our expectations are as low as they can get, so they can only go up, right? I hope, but we'll see.
Yeah. Here's another bit of news here. Another one I was a bit surprised about is that Eli Roth's Thanksgiving is officially greenlit. We're going to be getting it. And that surprised me is they're putting this into theaters. I thought for sure this was going to get sort of straight to streaming release, but the studio is backing it, is going to be getting a theater release. Now, will this be like a special event type thing where they only release it for a few days, or is it going to be a full wide spread out release? I think if they release it around Thanksgiving time, it could do probably well where they could do a full theater release, but we'll see. But I think it's great that this is at least getting some sort of theater release.
Yeah, this seems to be the new trend for horror movies, where they release it for like one day, and then if it does well, they release it a little bit more and kind of staggered release, as opposed to these big studio, blasts of releasing it everywhere right away. So who knows? I don't know if Eli Roth's name holds as much weight as it used to, at least not for mainstream Hollywood. So I would assume it's a limited release, but that'd be cool if they do release it in some big capacity in theaters.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. Well, just a couple more bits of news to get through here. Hey, friend of the show, Damien Maffei, will he be returning for Haunt 2? As it has just been announced that Haunt 2 is in the works. Becken Woods, of course, who directed and wrote the original. They also wrote A Quiet Place. I don't know if they wrote the sequel or not, but they said we can confirm that conversations for a Haunt sequel are officially underway. And that's all we got for you. It sounds like it's going to happen. Where is this going to go? Now, I think a prequel would probably be maybe the coolest way to go, because spoiler alert, they all die pretty much in that last movie. I mean, I think one maybe or two of them might have survived, so maybe they can kind of go on to the sequel. But I mean, I would like to see them all back and kind of see how they kind of got into the whole thing with the body dysmorphia and how they all met up and stuff. So yeah, we'll see. What do you think, Steve? Would you rather see a prequel or a sequel?
I mean, I want to see Damien back, so that would have to be a prequel unless it's his evil twin brother or something.
Yeah.
I'd definitely rather see a prequel, I think, in this particular case. Even though I don't usually like looking back, I prefer like stories moving forward. In this particular case, I'd like to know more about the people in the masks. I think it'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And so we'll keep you up to date on that. Maybe I'll try to pry a little information out of Damien and get us an exclusive.
Right.
All right. And then to wrap it up, congratulations to Scream 6, which we were going to do this week, but Todd wasn't able to make the show. So we are going to be covering Scream 6 on next week's show. But congratulations to Scream 6. They set a box office record for the franchise, pulling in $44.5 million on opening weekend. So shout out to Scream 6. The franchise is as hot as ever. We're going to be getting a 7. We'll be getting an 8, 9, and 10. I'm sure we will down the road, but I think I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be just like a trilogy for this Radio Silence crew. That's kind of the hot thing on the streets right now, these horror trilogies, but we'll see about that. And then finally, the very final piece of news here is in remembrance to the original, rest in peace to the original creature from the Black Lagoon, Gilman. Rico Browning passed away last week. He was 93 years young. So, just an absolute legend. He was the last living Universal monster. He played the Gilman in all of the underwater scenes for that original Creature from the Black Lagoon. So I actually had the chance to meet him 5 or 6 years ago, and he was awesome. I was glad to get some things signed by him. So yeah, rest in peace, Rico.
Yeah, I never got the chance, unfortunately, but I did get his autograph through consignment. So I'm glad I could at least get something Universal Monsters on my wall, because everything else is like crazy. Sad, but lived a nice full life. Apparently he was super nice from every account I've heard. So yeah, rest in peace for sure.
Yeah. And that is going to be it for horror news this week. Thank you. And once again, you can always send in your horror news, email us, or the Discord. We have a horror news channel over there. So if you ever want to hear a bit of news that you'd like me to talk about, send it. Thank you.
All right. And on that bummer news, let's throw it to our sponsor, Deadly Grounds Coffee.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds Coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds Coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
All right, well, watch.
Alrighty. Yeah, alrighty. Well, watched. I'm going to be doing a full breakdown of Monster Mania, but Steve, why don't you want to go over at least one of your movies or both of your movies or however you want to do this?
I think I'll do both because I can't outshine what you're going to talk about with my with my other one. So I'll just do my two movies back to back. So my first one was a recommendation that I saw over on Twitter from someone called Jeff Whitmire 1. And if you guys don't know who that is, he's actually like almost the Weird Al of horror. He takes like well-known songs and does horror parodies of them. And he's actually really, really good. Check him out on YouTube. It's Jeff Whitmire 47 on YouTube and Jeff Whitmire 1 on Twitter. Really cool guy. And he had been talking about this movie a lot. It's one I didn't get to see last year for the year-end show. So I finally got to it. So a 2022 film that I watched over on Tubi, but only in the US. They don't have it in Canada. So which is why I kind of watched it here. And it's called Feed Me. So this is the story of a couple, and the girl unfortunately like kills herself. I think it was through anorexia or like some kind of eating disorder. And the boyfriend's like really like sad about it, and he's struggling. He goes to a bar and he talks about wanting to kill himself. And this kind of slimy looking dude, kind of like a used car salesman, overhears what he's talking about. And he gives him a card and he tries to pitch him the idea that he will help him with his suicide, like assisted suicide. But the best and most noble way to die that way is to be eaten by someone else for like their essence. And he's basically a car salesman, so he's like sells him that it's the best ways for him to consume him. And he agrees to it. He signs a contract, and this guy brings him over to his house. They start a little bit of a rapport, and the story is about this guy slowly eating the other guy. He first takes a finger, and then he takes other body parts, and eventually other stuff starts happening. The further he gets into this process, he starts meeting like a girl, and he's interested in her. So that's kind of a complication in his life. The guy's starting to regret his choice as he's losing body parts. So that's also complicated the whole thing. And cops are onto him. So there's this whole mishmash of things going on. And he's trying to kind of complete his mission of fulfilling eating this guy. And it's a really interesting story. I won't say too much more than that because I think it's one that people should watch. I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was a really cool film, really interesting. But the best thing about this film is 100% Neil Ward, who plays the kind of slimy salesman guy. If I had watched this last year, it might have made my top 10, like maybe in the bottom 10, but he would have definitely been my best actor of the year for males. Absolutely fantastic performance. The way he plays creepy, yet like sad, yet you feel bad for him. Then you're like creeped out by him again. And it's just like he plays all these roles with such subtle emotions and the way that he says things, and he's also very convincing, like the way that he sells his services and kind of tries to get away from the police by being swarming with them and his girlfriend. It's crazy. It's definitely one people should check out. So that is Feed Me over on Tubi. And the other one that I watched a lot, but these are the two I want to talk about, is from 2016, and I watched this over on Netflix. It's called I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. So this is the story of a woman who goes to a house with an elderly lady, and she becomes essentially her caretaker. And it kind of follows her living in this house with the elderly woman, taking care of her for months at a time. And all of a sudden, she starts noticing creepy things happening in the house. And it's basically like a haunted story of her being haunted by this ghost and trying to figure out kind of what's going on, the mystery as to what the ghost is about. And that's basically the main story. Like, there's not too much to it. There aren't a ton of characters. It's really just her, the old lady, and occasionally people come to the house. Like at one point, the pipes are leaking and someone comes to look at them and like stuff like that. It's a pretty creepy film. The ghosts are really well done. It's a very much of a slow burn. But there's also long periods of time where there's nothing happening. It's just her kind of living in this house, and that can get a little boring at times. And unfortunately, I wasn't like super happy with the end. I thought it could have had a better ending, but still, I thought it was an okay film. Not something I would want to watch again or anything, and not something I'd go out of my way to recommend. But I'm happy I saw it. So that's I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House over on Netflix. Oh, and I give Feed Me a 4 out of 5 stars, and the other one a 2 out of 5 stars.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Steve, for that. And now for me, I didn't watch anything this week because I was super busy prepping for Monster Mania weekend, which I attended over this past weekend. Monster Mania is one of my all-time favorite horror conventions. It's right up there with Texas Frightmare for me. Maybe a little more smaller scale, like guest wise, because Texas Frightmare has like 50 to 60 plus guests. Monster Mania usually gets between 20 to 30, but they always have a really good guest list, and it's really well done. So yeah, it was about a 5-hour trek. It's not too bad of a ride. Luckily the weather was good. Got in early, which was nice. Was able to nap, and then the madness ensued. Friday started off with almost a heart attack, man, because I was on my phone scrolling and I saw like Undertaker thing pop up, and I was like, oh no, he canceled, didn't he? But luckily his flight was just delayed. He wasn't going to show up till 8. He was supposed to be there 6 to 10. He didn't show up until 8, and they were like, don't worry, like he's gonna do we're not one person is gonna miss out. He'll stay there as late as it takes to get it done. So that was like a big relief. So yeah, I mean, I started off with dressing as Art the Clown. I did my Terrifier cosplay, which was without a doubt the most popular costume I did the entire weekend. Like I couldn't move like a couple feet without someone grabbing me for a picture. So that was really fun. And I met the whole cast in my costume. I got Steve, all his autograph. I got a Terrifier 2-piece for Steve signed, and I also got some autographs as well. But yeah, so they had David Howard Thornton was there, of course, Art the Clown himself, Damien Leone, Elliot Fullman, who played Jonathan in Terrifier 2, and then the little pale girl, I can't remember her name right now, she was there as well. And then Leah Vossi, I believe her name is, who is the Clown Cafe singer. So yeah, they all were set up in one room. David Howard it was close between David Howard and Lil Pale Girl. They both had really, really long lines. Not like extremely long. I mean, I think Saturday they definitely had longer lines. I didn't even step foot in that room on Saturday, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't like crazy wait, but you know, I probably waited about 30 minutes for each one of them, but the other three weren't as bad. But you know, they all loved the costume. I didn't get photos with all of them because I didn't want to do the combos. Shout out Elliot Fullman. He was the only one that did free photo with his picture, but all the other ones were 60 each, I believe. So everyone was right around that 60 range. So anyone going to Texas Frightmare, expect to pay about, you know, 60 for each group. And yeah, so that was pretty much that. And then right around 10 o'clock. So I walked around, I did the autographs, and then right around 10 o'clock, I had my photo op with The Undertaker. So around 9 o'clock, I went upstairs. I got my Paul Bearer outfit. I dressed as Paul Bearer for my photo op with Undertaker. The Undertaker was fucking wild, man. There were so many. He was the big draw. There were so many people there for him. Luckily, I was able to get right in on the photo op. I didn't wait extremely long for that. But you know, Undertaker was fucking massive. Dude he's got to be close to 7 feet. You know, I went up to his chest. But yeah, I mean, everybody was super pumped for him. Wrestling fans are definitely a different breed than horror fans. They seem to be way more passionate, a lot more costumes, and just people fucking spending thousands and thousands of dollars. Like I saw people getting so much stuff signed by him. But he was cool. Like he really, you know, he's a quiet man, but he acknowledged my Paul Bearer outfit. He was just like nice. And then he we did our photo, and then, yeah, I got right in the line. I got to say, Fitterman Sports, who is the company that brought in The Undertaker, they are a well-oiled machine. They know what the fuck they're doing. The line moved really fast. I mean, I was probably in and out 2 hours total for both the photo op and the autograph, which I thought I was going to be there until 2 a.m. I was one of the last people to get his autograph, and it was done by midnight. So literally 8 to midnight, he was done everything, photo ops, autographs, the amount of people. So shout out to them. If you ever see Fitterman Sports doing an event, I would say you're in good hands, and you're not going to be waiting there all day to meet people. So yeah, that was day one. I met Ryan from the podcast, who didn't even know he met me. I was in my Art the Clown costume, and he took a picture with me, and I was like, Ryan, but he must not have heard me. And yeah, so shout out to him. I didn't see him the rest of the weekend. I mean, conventions are so fucking hectic and wild that it's just hard to meet up with people because you get so much going on. But yeah, so that was pretty much day one. Steve, any questions before I do my day two breakdown?
Oh my God, so many. First, I want to know, so you went to Terrifier costumes and everything. Which one do you think reacted the most to your Art the Clown?
Ooh, David Howard for sure, was really excited about it. He, and then his I think his agent or whatever was there, and they were taking a bunch of pictures of my cosplay and stuff. And then, yeah, so I would say he was definitely the most. Damian Leone probably second. He was really digging it, and he took a picture of me in the costume and stuff like that, which, man, Damian had no line. I walked up to the dude, and I'm just like, wow, it's wild to think about, because the dude created the whole universe. And I was like, it must be tough to just sit there and no, you're without a line, and you see fucking everyone else. Yeah, right. Yeah. Everyone else has these huge lines. And you're like, what the fuck, man? I created this shit. Without me, none of this would exist. But he definitely, I think, got some more love later in the night and on Saturday. Plus, he was in the photo op, which I'll get into on Saturday, Art the Clown photo op. But yeah, I mean, everyone definitely reacted to it. Elliot was like, I would interact with you. He's like, I would ask you questions. He's like, but I know you're probably staying in character. It's silent. I only broke my character for Lil Pale Girl. I was like, hey, I just want you to know, I think you were probably the best part of Terrifier 2. I was like, I loved your character. And she's like, oh my God, thanks so much. She was, sweet. I mean, it's weird, meeting child actors, you really don't know what to say or do. She's a little older. She's 15 now.
They filmed
she's
a while back.
they
with
filmed it.
COVID
They filmed it
pushed right?
yeah. They filmed it 4 years ago. So she's a little older now. But I gotta say, man, like to kind of go a little more off, I didn't end up meeting Megan. Megan was there, of course, the actress who played Megan. But she's like such like a tiny little girl. But holy shit, man, her line was fucking huge all weekend. That's what one of the reasons I did meet her is because I was like, man, like her line was hour plus Friday and Saturday. I did see her photo op though, as her in costume, and that looked actually really cool. I kind of wish I did it after seeing it, but whatever.
Cool. And my other question, of course, The Undertaker. You know, that's actually the first like real celebrity I've met in person. I mean, I met like a bunch of hockey players and stuff because, you know, like that's just the way it is in Canada. Like those are celebrities to us. But outside of hockey players, yeah, The Undertaker is the first celebrity I met. And man, I was like 14, so he was fucking massive, right? And yeah, he's an intimidating looking dude.
He is.
Did he like react the same way when you got the autograph, or was he just like a signing machine at that point?
He was definitely more like like they were trying to just bang it out, you know. But little bonus, they fucked up. They gave me a photo at the table as well, which I didn't pay for. Okay. So I got a photo at the table with him as well.
Nice.
So $200 value right there for free, which I didn't really need it, but I took it anyway because like fuck it, they gave it to me.
Right.
So he was cool. Like I got him to sign my urn, which came out looking fucking really cool because he signed it in the purple paint pen, so it was really cool looking. And then like I'm not gonna lie, I was like pretty like feeling pretty well you know, pretty drunk at that point because like I was already drinking all day, and then like I had a drink, a couple pre-made drinks. I like, you know, filled up like a 2-liter, or not 2-liter, a 20-ounce soda, like half with rum. So I was like drinking it while I was waiting in line. So by the time I got to him for him to sign the autograph, I like tried talking to him, but I was like pretty messed up at that point.
Right.
So I was just like, yeah, I was like, man, I was like, your first match. I was like, my first match I ever went to was WrestleMania. It was you versus Kane. He's like, oh yeah, that was a really good one. And that was it. That was my conversation with him. Yeah. And then we took a picture, and that was it. I don't know, but it was cool. I really don't regret meeting him and getting the autograph. I mean, it was expensive, but I definitely don't regret it. And the fucking urn came out looking awesome, so it'll look great displayed.
That's awesome. All right, let's go. Day 2.
All right, day two. I'll try to get through this quick. All right, so day 2 started off with me wanting to bang out just my autographs so I can just enjoy the rest of the day. Like I said, the guest list wasn't like amazing for me personally this time around. So like I got the Terrifier autographs done with on Friday. Saturday, I wanted to get Rebecca Gayheart, who I ended up finding an Urban Legend figure on eBay, so I had her sign that, and she was only there Saturday, Sunday only, and I planned on leaving early Sunday, so I wasn't going to get her on Sunday. So, you know, her line wasn't terrible, but I ended up waiting probably close to like 45 minutes to an hour because there was one dude in front of me who had to have gotten about like 100 things signed. Like he must have been obviously like a consigner or something like that. And it was just so fucking brutal, man. Just like sitting there waiting, like while one person is taking up all this time. People were so fucking mad, like in front of me too. It was funny. Like people were just so pissed off. But she was a sweetheart. She was like super nice. I wanted to talk to her so bad about Santa's sleigh, but they were keeping the line after that guy fucked the line up, like, and it backed it up so much. They like wanted to keep the line moving as fast as possible. So it was like a super quick interaction with her, but her biggest concern was making sure the autograph looked nice on the Urban Legend figure, which, you know, she signed it in black, which I don't love. I kind of wish it's so awkward. I never want to be like, can you like do like a different marker, like or something, you know, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be that guy, but you know, it looks fine, but it's a little dark. It's like a dark thing on a dark surface. So it's, you know, I wish she did a little better, but yeah, whatever. She was super sweet, super nice. But wish I could talk to Anna Slay with her. Unfortunately, I didn't get to.
That's the way it is, yeah.
Yeah. And then I got Quinn Lord. He's the only other autograph I ended up getting. 0 line. Walked right up to him. Which I was kind of surprised about, right? Like, because Sam is such like an icon, I feel like, at this point. But everyone was there for the Sons of Anarchy people, like Charlie Hunnam, fucking like he had a lineup. I like woke up at like 7 a.m. or on Saturday, and I looked outside and he already had like a line, like outside. So yeah, everyone was there for them. So I think that kind of helped the lines out. I planned on meeting Rose McGowan. Oh, by the way, I talked to Quinn Lord about the Trick or Treat sequel. He's like, it's 100% happening. He's like,
really?
but he's like, he's like, it's 100% happening. I was like, are you going to be involved? And he's like, I don't know yet. He's like, I haven't been approached about it. He's like, they've barely written anything yet. He's like, I've only seen a couple storyboards. So he's like, it's probably going to be a little bit, but he's like, it's 100% happening. They're already kind of developing it. So there's a little update as far as that goes. And I've already met him before, but he's, super nice kid. And then, yeah, what did I do after that? Then I got into my Freddy cosplay, which, looked good. I was really happy with how it turned out. I did Chest of Souls Freddy. You can see all these pictures on my social medias if you want. Joe's House of Horror. I was really happy with that. Bummer, the mask on the malt ripped a little bit though, so I'm gonna have to get that repaired. So if anyone knows a good mask repair, let me know. But then I went to the Q&A with Brooke Smith, who of course was the girl in the well for Silence of the Lambs, and she was she might have been my favorite Q&A I went to. She was like super funny, super engaging, just like extremely nice. I asked her a couple questions. I asked her about how it was to work with Precious, the dog, whose real name was Darla in real life. And she said, was a super sweet dog, didn't give her any issues whatsoever. And then I asked her if she got to keep anything on the filming, and she did, but she said she super regrets doing this after finding out later what was to come. But she said about 5 to 7 years ago, she gifted the lotion bottle she had in the well with her to Marilyn Manson as a birthday present. So yes. So she's like, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for saying this now, but she's like, we hatched out plans. Me and my friends hatched out plans to like break into his house and steal it back and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm like, oh man, why would you even gift that to anyone? I don't care how good of friends you are with them. She also said that Michelle Pfeiffer was the reason she got the role. That Michelle Pfeiffer was actually originally cast, and then she decided she didn't want it, and then it ended up going to her. So yeah, she was super cool, super nice. And then I ended the night costume contest. I dressed as the Creeper, which I was pretty happy with how that one came out too. He was definitely the second most popular. Interestingly enough, Freddy the least popular, but I get it. Like, been there, done that. He's a very been there, done that character right now, man. But holy fuck, man, Art the Clown is like the fucking Terrifier popularity just blows my mind. Like, I know he really is the new, I think he definitely should be crowned the new horror icon, because his the amount of Terrifier shit I saw was wild, and just the people just loving on Terrifier all weekend. I also got a photo op with Art in the full get up, and he looked fucking awesome. It was really cool to see it in the flesh. I didn't win the costume contest, unfortunately. It went to the Terminator, and he did look awesome. I mean, I'll give him that. He looked really, really cool. So, but I had a lot of people come up to me and say I got robbed. So, just want to say that. Just want to throw that out there. And then there was a couple of Q&As I attended. Terrifier 2 panel, which was by far the most crowded panel of the entire weekend, obviously. Honestly, a kind of a dick sucking contest. I gotta say, they not on everyone, but they Uncle Creepy, Steve Barton, who produced it with Dread Central, he moderated the panel, and then Phil Falcone, who produced the movie, was up there too, and like they kind of like took over the panel, and I was like, I don't want to hear like how the movie got distributed and produced. Like, I want to hear from the actors and their experiences. And it was just kind of the two of them stroking their ego for half the panel. So I was like, this wasn't the best panel. I've sat through better panels. And then the Friday the 13th Final Girls panel with the Final Girls from part 1, 2, 4, and 5. Bit of a snooze fest, I'm not gonna lie on that one. But the most interesting thing was a bit of an update on the A24 series that is going to be coming Friday the 13th. Adrienne King is going to be in that one from part one. She's going to kind of be involved some way, somehow, but she talked about that and she said, take this with a grain of salt, but she said, it was refreshing to sit. She, for the first time ever, was asked to sit in at a writers meeting with the guys from A24. And she's like, these are legitimate fanboys, like for the Friday 13th, franchise. She said, usually it's studios that don't give a shit, that just care about the money and the bottom dollar. She's like, the franchise is going to be in really good hands with these writers. She's like, they're legit Friday the 13th fans, and we'll see. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, I think, a whole breakdown of the weekend. It was a great time. Horror cons are always amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, it makes me really excited for Texas Frightmare. It's going to be a great time. A lot of guests. Like, it's really stacked already. I'm assuming they're still going to announce a few more probably before.
Yeah.
And then the cancellations will start happening, and then the replacements of those cancellations. Yeah, we all know the rigmarole of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's too bad that you couldn't have seen Ryan again. But I guess cons are so friggin' crazy. But if you are going to Texas, let us know. We will be organizing like little meetups and stuff to make sure that we can kind of, sit down with everyone and chat with everyone. I know we're starting to talk about a lunch on the Friday at one of the like popular Texas barbecue places and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So definitely reach out to us and we'll meet up at some point during the weekend for sure. Sound like a great weekend, Joe.
A blast.
Fucking exhausted.
I was very exhausted. I think I'm kind of caught up now. I caught up on my sleep yesterday, and we left. We didn't even stay for the con at all on Sunday. We woke up around like 8 or 9 and just took right off, because you just want to get home at that point. And I had to work Sunday night, so it was brutal. But yeah, I mean, worth it. Always a blast. A great con. I highly recommend it if you can ever get out to a Monster Mania to do it, especially you, Steve. It's not that far for you. Right. Like, I don't think so maybe we can, we'll see. I mean, Sam and I are hoping to go for this August, but we'll see. I know you're kind of busy, but already spending a lot of money this year. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. So thanks for that breakdown. That was really, really cool. And I think it's time to get to a little feature here of The Last of Us. We don't do a lot of TV shows, but once in a while we do them when we really it's something really special. And I think this one counts in that category. So The Last of Us, based off a video game from Naughty Dog, which was released in I'd say 2014. I don't have it in front of me, but based on memory, it's a PlayStation game. And honestly, one of my favorite games ever. The first Last of Us, just a fantastic game. So when the series was announced, I was kind of reluctant about how it would go because the game is already so good. Like, how are you going to replicate that on screen? And let's face it, for video game fans, not the best track record with video game adaptations, and horror, especially the Resident Evil films. Although they had their own merit, didn't feel like Resident Evil. Silent Hill was okay. House of the Dead was fucking shit. It just hasn't been a great track record. But went in with an open mind. And this is what we got. So we're going to do a episode by episode breakdown. There are only 9 episodes. We're just going to talk about them pretty quickly, I think. Something that I liked about The Last of Us, I wasn't really prepared for this because we were going to do Scream. So we kind of decided this kind of last minute. But the episodes are really unique. Each of them have really their own feel, which is different from a lot of other shows. So it made it kind of easy for this particular segment. So we go to episode 1, When You're Lost in the Darkness. So this is, of course, the introduction to Joel and his daughter Sarah, and as they're getting away, as the apocalypse is starting to happen, everything kind of leading up to when, and spoiler alert, I should say, for this whole episode, if you haven't watched The Last of Us, stop now and come back later, up until when his daughter unfortunately is killed. And then the story takes place some years later, 20 years, I believe, where Joel and Tess are tasked with a mission to take Ellie, which is a little girl who lives in the QZ, the quarantine zone, who seems to have immunity to the virus. So that's where our first episode leads off, as for the first half is about Joel kind of trying to escape with his daughter, and the second half is 20 years later as he's in the quarantine zone and given this mission to bring Ellie to the Fireflies. So what did you think of the first episode?
Excellent start. I really loved the whole intro with, kind of them showing how this kind of all got started. It was, action packed, fast paced, but also was really great in the beginning to build that relationship with Joel and his daughter, who I thought his daughter was great. And I was really bummed when she got killed. And I thought we were going to follow her, have her character for a lot longer. So it was really shocking to me. I never played the video game, so I really had not, I'm going in completely fresh. So I had, no clue. And it was heartbreaking, to see the daughter get killed. I really liked the look of the clickers. They're very cool looking. Creepy, for sure. I love the fucking funguses growing off their heads and shit like that. Really cool. The second half also very good. It's kind of setting up the rest of the story. So yeah, excellent start, and it pulled me in pretty much right away and made me excited for the rest of the series.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting about our review because you've never played the games and I did play the game, so it's two very different perspectives. One from someone who knew the story and one from someone who didn't. So of course, Sarah's death does happen in the video game, so I knew this was coming, but it didn't really lessen the impact all that well. And I will say that, holy shit, man, they did a good job replicating that entire sequence. I mean, it's not obviously shot for shot, but it's pretty damn close. All the major beats from that sequence were there. And that kind of gave me hope for the show, because one of my big complaints is often they go into their own direction to the point where it doesn't feel like the video game it's based off anymore. And that was not the case here. It felt like the video game. And right away, Joel with Pedro Pascal was amazing, fucking everything. He's so good. He was great as Joel. And then in the second half, we get Ellie. Now, Ellie, I gotta say, wasn't super sold on her in the first episode. I was kind of on the fence. I don't know, this doesn't feel like the Ellie from the video games. Now, that changes dramatically as of episode 2. But in the first episode, I was kind of on the fence. But I was interested to see where it would go from there. Of course, knowing the whole story, but curious how they were going to introduce the different elements. The first episode doesn't have much of the horror aspect, so the clickers are actually only in episode 2. But it was a cool introduction to this world, and I thought very well done for people who had, who had never seen kind of this story play out. Which brings us to episode 2, called Infected. So this one, after escaping the quarantine zone, Joel and Tess clash over Ellie's fate while navigating the ruins of a long abandoned Boston. So this is one I'm curious about your take on, because of course, this is where they introduce a lot of the horror elements, with the clickers being a big kind of part of it. And also it takes place in Boston. They move around a lot in this show, but in this one's in Boston. So what are your thoughts on this episode?
Well, my first initial reaction was, well, that's not Boston. Clearly, it looks nothing like Boston.
Which is funny, because my first reaction was well, that's obviously Calgary. Because exactly what that was. It is what it is.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It is what it is. They tried to put elements of Boston in there. They did actually have some of the real street names, obviously, and they do at one point show the the city hall building, which it would be impossible to get that shot when they're walking. It's stupid stuff you wouldn't notice unless you're from the area. But yeah, I mean, once again, I thought this was a really solid episode. I wasn't loving the whole sort of Boston area, I don't know, just I wasn't feeling them living in there. I'm glad they moved away from it really quick, honestly, because I was just this is sort of gonna be like The Walking Dead. It's just gonna be they're gonna be stuck in this fucking city for ever and stuff. But I was pleasantly surprised when the fucking clickers come in at the end and just fucking go fucking crazy. Loved that scene. This is the episode where Joel's girlfriend dies, correct?
Yeah.
Or yes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, which once again was not expecting that to happen. so fast. It was, heartbreaking to once see Joel just fucking dealing with so much heartbreak within the first couple episodes. The poor bastard, really just can't catch a break, but really impactful. And once again, another really good episode. Are we rating episode by episode, or are we going to just do
we'll just
thing
do
at the
a
end?
full,
Okay. Okay. At the very end.
And
Okay.
we'll
very
talk
cool.
about like favorite episodes, stuff like that. But
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think this was a good episode. I definitely liked the first episode better, but the end sequence was definitely amazing. And, once again, just pulled me. Maybe, I guess first part of this episode wasn't completely pulling me, but then that second half of the episode just like pulled me right back and it was like, oh fuck yeah. Like, let's see where this goes.
Yeah. See, it's funny. So having played the video game, there are when I think of The Last of Us, I think of 3 moments, and one of those 3 moments are in this episode, and I'll talk about the other 2 later. And that's everything that happens within like the museum inside. It's all like overgrown, and that's where you're introduced to the clickers. And in the game, you're very fucking ill-equipped to deal with those stupid clickers. You basically use rocks to push them, like to make them go away, stuff like that, and get past them. So seeing the clickers, realize they were perfect. That's exactly the way they look like and sound like and feel like in the video games. And I really, really like unlike zombies, which you could kind of dispatch pretty quickly, it's in numbers that zombies are dangerous. Whereas clickers, they can be dangerous on their own. They're not as easy to dispatch. They're not as easy to kill. And you get that feeling in this episode. And something I really liked about this episode, and I was talking about not loving the Ellie performance in the first episode, this is where you really get to know Ellie more and see her personality. And this is where I fell in love with Bella Ramsey. I think that's her name, the actress who plays her. And I'm like, okay, now I'm sold on her playing Ellie. I just needed more time to kind of grow her character. And I like that Joel doesn't want to get close to her, especially at this point of the series, because he's already lost his daughter. He doesn't want to deal with another little girl that he has to take care of and potentially lose her too. And you can kind of feel that. And the animosity that they have in this episode is interesting, and especially me knowing where it was going to go eventually, it was nice to see like a slow developing relationship that really kind of started in this episode. And I love this episode. This is like one of my favorite episodes, not my favorite, but one of my favorite episodes. It was really, really cool. All right, episode 3. This is an interesting one. It's called Long, Long Time. When an unknown person approaches his compound, survivalist Bill forges an unlikely connection. Later, Joel and Ellie seek Bill's guidance. So this one is basically a kind of side story because you don't actually get much of Joel and Ellie in this one. It takes place in the past throughout the not the pandemic, but the kind of outbreak the whole time, where Bill is this kind of lonely farmer. He's got this whole like compound to himself, and this guy comes in, and eventually they become friends, and then more than friends, and it kind of goes from when they meet up until their passing, and then later Joel and Ellie discovering that they had passed and kind of using their supplies to move forward on their quest to get to the Fireflies. So what do you think of this very interesting episode?
Yeah, this episode was a huge risk, I think, because you're only the 3rd episode into the series, and you basically are stalling the episode or stalling the progression of the series for just this story about these 2 side characters that seemingly aren't that important. But obviously once we get to the end, we find out there's a reason. It does somewhat progress the story a little bit. So it was an interesting choice, but I fucking loved this episode. I really did. I thought Nick Offerman was fantastic. I love Nick Offerman anyway. Ron Swanson just great, like fantastic. So just seeing him in a role you wouldn't expect him in, as a sort of closeted gay man who finally kind of finds the love of his life, and this progression, because he's like, when he first starts, he seems like this fucking like really just like, for lack of a better word, sort of like a Trumper almost, I don't know, like fucking like I need my guns and like all this like crazy shit, not like I'm not trying to get political. I got no problems with anyone's political stances, but he just seems like one of those just like hardcore conservatives. And then you end up getting this absolutely, beautiful love story between I honestly, and man, I did not know where this was going to go at first. When he traps that guy, I thought for sure like he was going to fucking betray him sort of, and was just kind of playing him and was going to end up murdering him. But we end up getting this like really beautiful love story between these two characters. And I mean, it gets like pretty emotional. Like, I found it amazing that they were able to build these two characters and create this story in pretty much under an hour. It was really impressive. I thought it was like a master class in storytelling. And it was different, it was a massive risk, no doubt about it, but I really enjoyed it.
So this was a massive risk for a lot of reasons. One, like you said, it's so early in the series to have kind of a whole backstory that, like you say, isn't really moving the story much, but it does a little bit. But more so, and this is where I started to see the brilliance of the Last of Us TV show. So all of this is not in the game. It is in journals. It's in like things that you find in Bill's house. They're like clues to things like this having happened, but it's like an entire backstory that they made off one small part of one level in the game. And I thought that's brilliant. This is where people who have played the game get something additional that you wouldn't get outside of a TV show. And I really, really love this episode. Nick Offerman, like you said, I mean, Ron Swanson is like the fucking legend. And the love, I was so into this love story and how fucking tragic the end is, but yet like also beautiful at the same time. It was a tough episode to watch, but great, so good this episode. I just couldn't get enough of it. Amazing, like an amazing episode. And of course you get Ellie and Joel kind of come in later. They're both passed by that point, and he left a letter with supplies and everything. I thought it was such a touching story. I love this episode, but it was a huge risk, and it's going to alienate some people. We know certain types of people will not like this and probably stop watching after this, and fuck them, because trust me, with what comes next, they are not going to like it. So it was probably good that they dropped off at this point. But I love this episode. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah. And it's like it's a second lowest rated episode of the season, which is, of course, just shows like the hate of like the people who are just the hate in this world. It's ridiculous. It's one of the best episodes of the season, in my opinion. So
I can only imagine what the most hated one. It's probably the other one that deals with the same.
Exactly. Yeah. You got it right.
All right. Going on to episode 4. Please hold my hand. After abandoning their truck in Kansas City, Joel and Ellie attempt to escape without drawing the attention of the vindictive rebel leader. So here, this is more of I guess, human episode. There are a lot more human things going on in this episode. They're on their quest, still trying to get to the Fireflies. They get to this city and they notice that there's this group essentially running this city, and they're trying to get away from them as they're trying to go continue on their mission. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I actually like this one quite a bit. It wasn't maybe the best of the series, but this is a solid one. It kind of moves the story, Joel and Ellie heading in the car and stuff. You get some great moments there with them kind of building their relationship. I believe this is the episode she's reading the pun books and they find to them and stuff like that. So that was all fun. And then there's, once they get into the city there and they start coming under fire and stuff, like that was really good, really action packed. This is the right episode, right? I'm talking about here.
Well, the big fight's the next episode, but
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, so there, so I like that. You start, you get Melanie Lynskey, who is the leader of what's the name of their group?
I don't remember.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, whatever. You got Melanie Lynskey, who is like the leader of this sort of like rebel group that's kind of rogue. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. This one, like, I'm kind of struggling to remember everything that happens in it then, because I thought it was the episode where the clickers end up coming, but that's the next episode where
Yeah,
they break through the street.
basically, this one is more about Joel and Ellie kind of getting to know each other, and they start
Okay.
noticing the other group, and you also see what the other group's all about. Kind of introducing them as
Yes.
almost kind of this villainous group that are killing off their own people.
That's
and
right.
Just being kind of assholes, and it's run by like this woman who's just does not care about anyone, and yeah, it's kind of like a establishing episode for.
Okay. Yeah, and I think they meet up with the brother, I think it is, with his brother.
So yeah, the end of this episode
at the very end. Yeah,
they're reading the books and everything, and they fall asleep, and then they get woken up by the two brothers, and that's the end of it.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So so this episode is mainly about the sort of, we see a lot of stuff with the rebels.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, this one was okay. This one was probably definitely one of the weakest for me. And I was concerned we were gonna spend a lot of time with the rebels, and I'm glad we don't, because I do really like Melanie Lynskey as an actress, but her character's okay in this, but I just wasn't loving this whole sort of like rebel group, because once again, like I just hate when they harp on groups like that for long periods of time, because then I feel like it just gets into Walking Dead territory where it's very much the same thing. But the show does a good job of kind of really moving stuff along.
Right. Yeah, this is probably my least favorite episode, I'd say.
Yeah.
For kind of the same reasons is, we just had a whole episode, even though as brilliant as it was, that doesn't really advance the story all that much. And I feel this episode kind of does the same thing, right? Yes, you get Joel and Ellie moving forward, but then you spend a lot of time introducing this group, what they're about, what they're up to. And I just we'd just seen an episode without Joel and Ellie, basically, or very little of them. So I want to get more of them as opposed to other people. So it was like a necessary episode to set up the next one, but it definitely wasn't one of my favorites at all. But that does bring us to the next episode, which is a very good episode. So this one is called Endure and Survive. So while attempting to evade the rebels, Joel and Ellie cross paths with the most wanted man in Kansas. That's Henry. And Kathleen continues her hunt. So in this one, of course, you introduced to Henry and his brother, and they're also kind of evading this group. So they kind of help each other out, and which leads to a huge confrontation with the rebels at a house, and then finally also a bunch of clickers and this gigantic monster that comes out from under the ground. So what were your reactions to this one?
So this episode started like just okay. I mean, I did like the relationship between Henry and Sam, and there's a great scene where they kind of go up to the top of a skyscraper and kind of plan their whole escape route, and then they end up while trying to escape, they end up in this sort of daycare where Ellie and Sam can just be kids again for just a little bit, playing with like I think soccer, reading like books and stuff like that. So like they're building that sort of relationship there, and then there's some good stuff with Joel and Henry sort of kind of talking about the sacrifices they've made and stuff like that. And then and that's kind of like it's like okay stuff, but then it just gets it like pops off when they're getting ready to escape, and they end up coming under fire by a guy who's kind of like just like protecting his house or whatever like that, and they get into that house sort of. I think they kill him, right? I believe the dude in the house. Yeah, like Joel's able to get in there and kill him. And then, the rebels end up coming, and then just all hell breaks loose. The fucking floor opens up underneath, and the fucking clickers and this big bloater dude comes out and just causing havoc. A lot of great action in there. A lot of like pretty vicious kills from what I remember as well. Pretty violent. And yeah, like, there's moments where you think maybe Sam and Henry and Ellie are in trouble, where Joel is in the house, popping off. And then I'll wait until the very end of this episode, because I think that's when we get into the sort of stuff where we find out Henry has been bitten. Correct? That's in this episode.
Sam has been bitten.
Sam, I'm sorry. Sam has been bitten. Yes. All right.
Yeah.
I'll save my thoughts then, and I'll let you talk about everything else in this episode.
Yeah, I really love this episode. It was high action. I liked that Sam and Henry were very like kind of alternate versions of Joel and Ellie. Just very like sticking to each other, and I like the relationship between those four characters. That's all really interesting. I like the look of this episode. Just fighting the rebels, and you get like you said, it's very reminiscent of The Walking Dead, getting this big group of like bad people, but you get through it really quick. One episode you're introducing them, next episode you're killing all of them off, with this really crazy fight at the end, with all the clickers, and you got the big monster at the end, and which I forget the name of it. It's going to bother me later, but I thought this was a thrilling episode. Really enjoyed it. I love the portrayal of both Henry and Sam. They were fantastic. Of course, I knew what was coming, so I knew this would not end well, and it doesn't. So what did you feel about the end of this episode with Sam getting bit and then Henry doing what he does?
Yeah. The big monster I think is called the bloater. I think I read that.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Did they ever mention, did they ever say actual clickers in this show, or is it?
Or twice.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. It was heartbreaking, man. Like, when you find out that Henry, right? Am I saying? Yeah. Henry's bit.
No, Sam.
Sam, sorry. Okay, yeah. I'm going to confuse that. So yeah, it's heartbreaking when you find out, Sam is bit, and then, he tells Ellie, and Ellie's like, I have blood that might help, and you're kind of hopeful that, hey, maybe like she's gonna, they're gonna put their blood together, and the next day he's gonna be fine, and we're gonna find out, this Ellie really is like the fucking savior. But unfortunately, that does not happen. Ellie wakes up the next day, and Sam is rabid, and unfortunately, and Henry, his brother, is forced to kill him, and it's heartbreaking. And then Henry, realizing that he just killed his brother, ends up turning the gun on himself and killing himself. I mean, it's terrible. It's heartbreaking. And then just the episode ends with Ellie kind of putting a message of I'm sorry on Sam's grave. I mean, it's oof, it really hits you. It really hit you in the feels there for sure. This is one of, I think, for sure, like between all the action and then just the emotion, this is once again definitely one of the better episodes of the whole season.
Yeah, at this point, like you're starting to realize, don't fucking get attached to anyone, because to kill Tess in episode 2, they kill Bill and his boyfriend in episode 3, they kill Henry and Sam in episode 5, and all in very kind of unique and tough ways to watch. So it's amazing how, and maybe I don't know, maybe it's because I like played with them in the game, so it's different, but how attached I was to Henry and Sam within the span of one episode. Did you feel the same way, having not have that experience?
No, 100%. Once again, like especially just like with Sam being deaf. Am I confusing these characters again? I'm so sorry, everyone. No, okay, no, it's Sam. Sam being deaf, with Sam being deaf, and like them kind of communicating with each other and stuff. I mean, that was like really kind of pulled at your heartstrings already. And then like you definitely can. I mean, this show just does an amazing job of being able to really get you attached to a character in an episode. It really is just amazing, fantastic writing. But yeah, I was attached to them, and I was so sad when they both end up dying at the end of this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and that brings us to episode 6, titled Kin. After ignoring the advice of locals, Joel and Ellie descend deeper into dangerous territory in search of the Fireflies, and Tommy. So this is the episode where Joel and Ellie meet up with Tommy in it's Wyoming, I believe, in the mountains, and they have that big kind of reunion. Kind of a slower paced episode compared to the ones we've had previously. It's more about setting up what Tommy has been up to, his new girlfriend and all that stuff like that. So this is more of like this is what's coming rather than something big happening within this episode. So what do you think of this episode?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. It was good. It was cool to see Tommy and Joel, finally reunite after all those years. You felt kind of like, the emotion there, how they missed each other. And I actually really, I always say I don't like when they stay in these one locations, but I found this city that they built to be super intriguing and interesting. Like the way they kind of built a city where it wasn't like really shitty, and like actually seemed like a place you would want to live, like, in a situation like this, where I've always talked about like who wants to live in such a fucking like shitty world, but like I could live in a place like that, I think, and it wouldn't be so bad, like it kind of felt like normal life. And it was interesting to see how they kind of had all this kind of built up. And then, the stuff with, Tommy and there's good stuff here with Joel and Ellie there, where Joel's kind of gonna pawn her off to Tommy, sort of, and kind of abandon her. And him and Ellie, him and Ellie have like a good moment there, where Ellie's kind of like, what the fuck, like, why are you abandoning me? And then, Joel kind of has a change of heart towards the end of the episode. But yeah, I mean, it's not like super action-packed episode like you said or anything like that, but I overall enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's nice also that they finally show that there are good people out there too, because
Sure.
all the groups that usually people, get into are bad and want something bad. And that's kind of the case for most groups that they meet in this show. This group looks like they're going to be bad at first, but when they bring him back, and of course he knows Tommy, they have a reunion and everything's cool. So you get the reluctance of people. Of course, there's so many bad people out there that want bad things, that it's good to have a group that is more accepting of things. And this town comes into play more in season 2, so that's going to be interesting to see as well. I do like the backdrop of the mountains in the back and everything like that. Obviously that's like the Rockies and Alberta, which is really nice. And yeah, it was a good episode. It's one that established Joel and Ellie's relationship even more. Like you said, he still doesn't feel like he's equipped to deal with Ellie, even though he has that rapport with her. And it's not until the end that he realizes that, no, he is the person that needs to do this and go with Ellie on her journey. Then he gets shot at the end of the episode, which was, surprising, I'm sure, to people who didn't know the game. I don't know if that's something that surprised you, especially he's shot like in the stomach, so it could have been fatal, I guess. Did you at any time think that Joel might kick the bucket at this episode?
No, I didn't. Like, and even Sam was like, "Oh my God, is he gonna die?" I was like, "There's no fucking way they're gonna kill Joel off like this early into the series." Like, I just never, I never even had an inkling. I'm like, he's gonna make it. But I mean, obviously they've killed off other characters, but I'm just like, man, they're not gonna bring Pedro Pascal like in and kill him off. I mean, I don't know, Game of Thrones has done it, but I just was never. I didn't feel that they would kill off Joel. Even like not doing the video games or anything, I just felt like he was too pivotal of a character to lose him this early.
Do you think they'll ever kill off Joel or Ellie for that matter? Or do you think this story is really about kind of those two characters?
Well, I could see Joel potentially dying, just because especially after, I mean, we'll get into it, but especially after the season finale, seeing how much of a kind of a wild card he can be and kind of a savage. Yeah, I had some different thoughts about Joel after that finale. We'll get into it, but yeah, I would think Joel. Like, I think the story at the end of the day is about Ellie. You know what I mean?
Right.
Mainly. So I could see them potentially killing off Joel rather than Ellie.
Right. And speaking of a story about Ellie, that brings us to the next episode called Left Behind. This is another story that goes kind of backwards into Ellie's backstory. So as Joel's fighting to survive, Ellie looks back on the night that changed everything, where this is where that she's kind of about how she got bit in the first place. And it goes into Riley, which is her best friend. They go to a mall together. They kind of have fun at the mall. And then, clickers start coming after them, and they both get bit by the clickers. And then the episode kind of ends with her deciding that she needs to help Joel because she needs to help her friend. So how did you feel about yet another backstory episode? And just for the record, this one was part of the game, kind of. It was downloadable content that they had basically adapted here. So this is something you could have played, but it wasn't part of the main story.
Yeah. So this like felt sort of like another, I guess, risk episode, sorta, kinda, like where they are kind of veering off the main storyline, kind of like episode 3. And I mean, but you have Ellie in here, but it's like a flashback to her and her sort of best friend / someone she sort of had a intimate feelings for. This episode was okay to me. It did not have to me the same impact as sort of like episode 3 did. And that's mainly because like I felt like they just spent way too much time in the mall. And the mall was cool for a little bit, but like, do we really need to see all like whatever it was 5 wonders of the mall? Like we fucking kept going. I was like, okay, like can we just kind of like do something different here? I like that they went to the Halloween shop. I mean, that was probably my favorite part. And that was cool. And then when the clicker finally comes, but I mean, to me, it was just kind of like you got a little bit of Ellie's backstory, but not much. It was okay. Like I didn't hate watching it or anything like that, but I found it kind of went on a little too long. I found myself bored in certain moments. It was probably one of my least favorite episodes of the season.
Yeah, I really like this episode, but I do agree that it's not placed in the best like spot because the episode really establishes Ellie's character a lot more. But by this point, we've gotten to know Ellie pretty well, so it was kind of unnecessary to show kind of her backstory at this point. I think it should have been maybe earlier in the season, but because we had that Bill episode, do you want 2 kind of backstory episodes so closely to the beginning of this series? So they kind of put themselves kind of in an awkward position here where there was no good place to put this story. Now, I mean, I thought it was a good story. We knew through a few hints during the season that Ellie was a lesbian, and this kind of just, you kind of figure out that this is where I guess it bloomed with Riley and everything like that. But yeah, I like the episode. I just thought there was no good place to put this episode at this point. There's a reason this was DLC and not part of the main story, right? It slows down again the story. So Joel gets shot and we have to wait another week to really find out what happens with Joel. And that's when you're binging something, that's fine, but when you have to wait week to week to watch it, it sucks. It's such a played out trope that a lot of shows do, where something really huge happens but you don't find out for fucking 2-3 episodes later. It's all because they go through on these tangents for a few episodes, and I just don't like that trope at all. I think you should deal with kind of the issue at hand. But if I'm just looking at it from an episode itself, not where it's placed in the series, I thought it was a good episode. Like, yeah, not a ton happens. They do spend a lot of time just playing at the arcade, okay, Mortal Kombat 2, cool. And then, the merry-go-round in the Halloween store, like they're going to the good places at the mall. So I'll give them that. They got good taste in their shopping, but yeah, I agree. It's kind of a weirdly placed episode.
Yeah, and I would agree with you that like as a one-off, like it is a good episode, but if I'm like breaking down an entire season, I just find like it's probably the most forgettable, I guess, of the episodes, or something like you could just skip it and like you're not going to miss much.
Right, exactly. So that brings us to the penultimate episode, so the second to last episode. This one's called We Are in Need. Ellie cross paths with a vengeful group of survivors and draws the attention of its leader. Weakened Joel faces a new threat. So in this one, Ellie is trying to help Joel now. So she shoots a deer and she meets 2 other people as she's going to pick up the deer. And these people say they have medicine, so they kind of make a deal, the deer or part of the deer for the medicine. And then she eventually, gets into confrontation with these people. She gets locked up. Turns out that they're cannibals and a lot worse things that really are gross. And Joel, meanwhile, he's kind of suffering. He did get penicillin because of the deal, but now he's faced to deal with some of the people going after him as well. And this is a one and out group. They come in, they're out within the episode. So there was a lot going on for an hour's worth of television. It was almost like a movie, like you went through an entire storyline throughout this one episode. So what did you think of this one?
This was without a doubt the best episode in my opinion of the entire season. I fucking loved this episode. There was really like never a dull moment. You have Joel like seemingly on death's door at the beginning of this episode. He's got like a super bad infection. Ellie has to go off on her own. And you feel kind of the vulnerability. I can't fucking speak right now. You can feel her, just kind of vulnerable state, and then she meets up with these couple guys, and seemingly he seems like a good guy, he seems like he could be like a good character. He ends up being one of the most fucked up and depraved probably characters of the entire season that we met. And holy shit, like this episode fucking just goes balls to the wall, just absolute crazy shit happening in here. There's a lot to really get into. You can really sink your teeth into a lot of this episode. But I mean, like when Ellie gets there, I mean, it seems like, okay, like they're going to bring Joel the medicine and shit like that. And then they fucking end up getting Ellie, and, you find out essentially they're this leader who, seemed like a guy is, they're fucking basically cannibals. Which, I think is, she calls him a sick fuck and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a fucked up thing to do, but man, like when you're in that situation, like I'm trying to look at it from his perspective, like you are the leader of like 50 people, and you're either going to starve to death or you're going to have to eat the dead. Right. And I would do the same. Like, I can't blame the fucking guy for doing it, as fucked up as it is. What's fucked up though is that we find out he's essentially a pedophile, where he essentially wants to take Ellie as his wife. And yeah, I mean, that on top of him being a cannibal, it makes it really fucked up. But man, that fucking end sequence with Ellie finally, looking like she might get raped at one point, and then fighting him off and fucking essentially just fucking going to town on this dude with a hatchet, or I think it was. Man, there's just some like really cool shots in there with the fire, and Joel, you think Joel's going to come to save the day, but it's Ellie that has to save herself. And just seeing Ellie so kind of broken at the end of this episode. And it really is, the moment that, you really feel that emotional connection. It was like building up the whole season between Ellie and Joel, but this is finally like the episode where they, embrace deeply, and, Joel calls her kind of baby girl. Like it's, he's kind of like the new daughter for him and stuff. So yeah, I mean, this is just a really just crazy ass episode, but also like deep emotional. And I mean, usually they say the penultimate episodes are the best, and it is very true for this one.
God, this episode had so much in it. Like, it's crazy how much this episode had. Yeah, you're right. It's just, I mean, the problem with the preacher is that he's killing people to eat them, right? He's not just, people aren't just dying.
Is he though? Or are they, because like I didn't know if he was like actually killing people. Okay.
Yeah, because if it's infected, he won't touch them, right? That was part of Ellie says she's infected, and they're all like, oh no, we can't, essentially we can't eat her now. So yeah, he's killing people. And that's where kind of the problem
then that's
is.
fucked. Yeah, all right, then that's the problem.
But it's funny, like, isn't that bad enough that he's a cannibal killing people? Did they really need to add that little like extra little thing, or not little thing, but big thing, just to make it even grosser? I don't know, maybe a little unnecessary. It's funny, when I watched the fourth Rambo, is the same thing. Like the main guy kills the whole village. He's like destroying people, but they also make him a pedophile. Like, it wasn't needed. We knew he was a bad guy. It's just extra. Yeah, and it's crazy to see Ellie like broken, really for the first time. She's dealt with a lot at this point, but this is really the one that, man, this world is just not good. And there are a lot of bad people in it, and they keep meeting these really bad people on this journey. Of course, it's based off a video game, and you're killing people in a video game, so you have to have bad people everywhere, right? That's kind of the way it has to be with a video game. But yeah, this episode was a lot, and it was very, very good. I thoroughly enjoyed this one in kind of a sick way. So that brings us to our finale. Look for the light. A pregnant Anna placed her trust in a lifelong friend Later, Joel, Ellie, near the end of their journey. So they go to Salt Lake City. They meet some giraffes, which is one of my moments I was talking about before. When I think of The Last of Us, I think of that scene at the baseball field where they meet the giraffes. And then Ellie is brought to the Fireflies, where she, is actually going to be killed to dissect her so that they can have maybe a cure. And that, when Joel finds that out, he's like, wait a minute, that's not what I thought this was about. And he realizes that maybe the Fireflies are not what he expected them to be, I guess. Not necessarily bad people. They have good intentions, but it wasn't the way he thought it would go down. And he just, he gets kicked out essentially of the hospital, but he's having none of it. So he kills everyone, like brutally, without mercy, kills everybody that's in his way between him and Ellie, and essentially saves her, which leads to a final confrontation, in the basement. And he fucking just kills her too, with brutally, and lies to Ellie about it because she's passed out at this point. And also interesting, a note for people who love the video games. So the first scene, you see Ellie being born, and the woman who plays the mother is who plays Ellie in the video game. And a lot of people, even the people I was watching the show with, were like, wow, they did a good job of making, Ellie look like the mom. I'm like, yeah, which shows just how good the casting for Ellie was. They look so similar, in real life. So I thought that was cool casting to have her there. So this was a hell of an episode, I thought. Just emotional, brutal, and it makes you feel like, wow, I wonder what Joel is going to do next, because you see a whole different side of Joel you haven't seen in this whole series.
Yeah, and also video game Joel was in episode 9 as well, which we didn't mention.
They actually all make, or most of them make, an appearance at some point in the series, whether it's a small role or a bigger role like this one. It's good.
Yeah. For anyone that has HBO Max, like at the end of every episode, there's like a behind the episode thing, which is like really cool and interesting. Where they do like interviews and kind of get with the writers and directors and stuff. So definitely stick around and watch that. It's really, really good. But yeah, I mean, this episode was really good. Once again, like fucking went pretty balls to the wall. My only complaint was I felt like they could have stretched this into 2 episodes. I felt like it was a bit rushed. But I mean, and my main complaint with shows is that they sometimes carry on stuff a little too long. But I think this one, they probably could have stretched this, into a 10 episode season rather than 9. I think they really could have, kind of built up the tension a little more for when Joel was ready to just go fucking absolute ham on everyone. But man, yeah, I'm conflicted with Joel now. Like, I understand, and obviously that's exactly what this show wants, or the video game wanted, is for you to be conflicted with this scene. On one hand, obviously he's been with Ellie all this time. And it's tough. Like, obviously it's like his daughter, like, he's looking back at his daughter and he lost her. He's not going to lose Ellie. But at the other time, like, you are basically fucking humanity. Maybe, potentially. I mean, we don't know. We don't know for sure that this doctor can really, create the cure, but isn't it worth the risk and trying, and it's an interesting choice. And would Ellie have wanted it? Would Ellie have sacrificed her life, in order to save humanity? And would you do that? Would you sacrifice your life? I think I would personally. I mean, I think I would potentially do it. But he took that choice away from Ellie. And, Ellie, I think, would not want that choice taking away from her. We know she's a very strong person, a very strong character. And obviously she knows that he's lying, right? At the end of this episode, she's kind of giving him the out to tell her the truth. And, you could see in her eyes that she knows he's lying, but at the same time, she has a lot of love for him too, I think. So she's kind of like, all right, like, let's see where this is going to go next, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, it's to see Joel in such a savage, just like, he just has no regard for human life or anything here. It's kind of scary. And that's why I said earlier, like, I think if anyone's going to die, it's probably going to be Joel, because he can be a fucking wild card, and clearly he shows it here.
yeah, it is an interesting way to take the character, I thought, and it does make you interested for season 2, because if this had been a clean kind of just another bad group, after Ellie, it would have been just like, okay, like whatever, where they go from here. But having that kind of mystery to them was very good, and I really liked this episode. But you're right, it went fast like that. The entire hospital killing scene is basically like a montage that lasts like 3 minutes, and that could have been almost an episode to itself, just as he meets different people in the hospital, and he has no mercy at all. Like at one point when he gets to the emergency room, the doctor is like, I don't know, he says something and he's just like, nope, kills him, then says, okay, the nurses have to give me what I want. It's fucking brutal. And I like that Ellie kind of knows, but she wants, I think, to believe him, right? That's the whole point. She wants to give him the benefit of the doubt, and she wants to believe that what he's saying is true. But I think you're right, she does not. And she does give him the benefit of the doubt, but she's going to have that throughout her, her head for the next, wherever the story takes us in season 2. So I thought this was a very effective final episode, but like you said, I think it was maybe a little too quick of things. So what do you think of the series overall?
I mean, yeah, I obviously didn't know what to expect. I didn't watch the video games or anything, so I just kind of went into this. I thought my concern was that it was going to follow The Walking Dead like extremely closely, and the first couple episodes kind of were giving me those vibes, but it did its own thing and it did it well. I wish we got more clickers. That would be my biggest complaint, is that we barely got any clickers in this entire season. Like, they were very few and far between, which, maybe would have become a more like Walking Dead scenario where like you're getting too many walkers. So maybe it was a good thing, but I would have liked to see them a little more. Felt like they were more of a threat. But overall, I thought it was fantastic. I loved pretty much every episode. And even the weaker episodes were still pretty enjoyable. So are we rating it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. I can't wait for season 2. Just fantastic acting. Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal, just absolute amazing performances. But great performances by everybody, really. Like, even all the side characters, just great stuff, great writing. Fantastic show. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. I really loved it.
Yeah, so 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, oh sorry, yeah, I forgot we're doing these ratings. Yeah. So yeah, 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I felt the same way about the video game. I thought one of my only complaints was that there weren't enough clickers. They do the human stuff too often, and eventually at some point you're just meeting group after group after group, and it's not as interesting because you kind of lose that feeling of fear for the clickers, because they go through these cities and these locations and there are no clickers. So like, it doesn't feel as dangerous of a world as The Walking Dead, for example, which is one of the best things about The Walking Dead, is that the second that they left their compound, there are always zombies out there. They're always in danger. You can never rest, and they can come out of anywhere. And that's one of the things I liked about that series, where I didn't get that feeling. It was more of a human story than a, kind of monster story, but still amazing series. I do think that maybe they went too fast. They cover a lot of, like, it's almost a location per episode. It's only that one double episode where the Henry and that kind of group that they do 2 episodes with, whereas everything else is just, you're in Boston, you're in Kansas City, you're in Wyoming, it's just like going place to place to place to place. And maybe it would have been better to have like a 12 episode and slow down a little bit, maybe show some of the other locations that they go to in the game that they didn't. But overall I loved it, and I agree with you. I'm also at a 4.5 out of 5. Great show.
Awesome. So I got to ask you, as someone who's played the games and the sequels and stuff, I mean, where do we go from here? Is this going to be like a few seasons and done, or do you think they'll go past the video games and kind of create their own story?
So there's only 2 games, right? And
right.
Season 1 is the first.
So first game. Okay.
So my understanding is that they're going to make season 2 into 2 games. Season 2 into 2 seasons. After that, though, you get that kind of Game of Thrones issue, right?
Right.
Where there is going to be a Last of Us 3, but is it going to be out in time for new TV shows? So they might have to go in their own direction. well, I don't know how. It depends how Neil Druckmann, the guy who created the series, is he telling him like this is what's going to happen? But then again, you don't want to ruin the game. So I don't know. They're gonna have to at some point figure things out, because this isn't a long-term plan at this point, right?
Right.
I have a feeling they're just going to go into their own thing after season 3, and just it's going to be different, right? You're going to play. There's going to be the path that the show takes and the path the video games take. That's just the way it is. It's like Game of Thrones, essentially. But if we ever get those books, who knows?
Never. No, I mean, R. Martin's done, man. He's made all the millions off the show. He's like, I ain't writing a book anymore.
Right, exactly. So what would you say is definitively your favorite episode and your least favorite episode?
Yeah, so definitively, I think I would give it to episode 8, the penultimate episode, When We Are in Need, as definitely the best episode. I just really fucking love that episode. There's nothing really bad about it. And then I think I would give episode 7, Left Behind, as my least favorite. Like we said, a good episode, but just one that I think wasn't as good as all the others.
Right. And so my favorite, I think, would be a 2-way tie between the penultimate episode, just because of how like crazy there is in there, but also the Bill episode, Long Time, because man, I really felt for that episode. I felt on a whole different level, you know. And my least favorite episode is actually the first part of that, the one with Henry, you know, like the one where Henry isn't in really.
Sure.
It felt too generic, you know, compared to everything else that we had seen at that point. So that would probably be my least favorite episode of the series. But I mean, it's still a really good show.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to our breakdown of The Last of Us season 1. Maybe we'll carry on to season 2 when it comes out. We'll see. We'll let you know. But in the meantime, you can follow us on any of our social medias: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, The Horror Squad Podcast. You can email us anytime, thehorrorsquadpodcast@gmail.com. And the absolute best way, of course, is our Discord. All you got to do is just send us a DM on any of our socials, and we will send you a link to join that Discord. Completely free to join. Amazing community. So please join us over on our Discord. Next week, we are going to be reviewing Scream 6, the highly anticipated follow-up of the Scream franchise. So go check it out. It's currently in theaters. And Texas Frightmare Weekend coming up in May. There's going to be a whole bunch of us there, so come and join in on that fun. And I think that is about it. So we'll see you guys next week for Scream 6. See ya.
Bye.